Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network, along with Tiger Rag editor Todd Horne and assistant editor Will Nickel, as we're here to preview the Chapel Hill Regional. LSU and Wofford beginning play at 11 a.m. Tigers on the road for a regional. What do you think? Can they advance out of the Chapel Hill Regional? I think North Carolina obviously looks like a tough test. Wofford, obviously, when you see the numbers on paper, looks impressive. But I think the LSU Tigers should be able to handle it.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of video over the last 48 hours or so of Wofford baseball, and to the point where I'm sick of it. But they are impressive, and statistically, as you stated, they're really impressive. They're scoring over 10 runs a game, 144 stolen bases. They're very athletic, but they hadn't played anybody, relatively speaking. They did finish fifth in the regular season in the SoCon, Southern Conference, but they won the tournament. This is only their second time ever in the NCAA tournament. They're under a first-year coach, but he's been there for 12 years, and he's responsible for their sustained offensive prowess, if you will, over the last 4 or 5 years. And they've been a constant leader in offensive categories. But again, it's not facing SEC pitching. So I think LSU is going to start Gage Jump, and Gage Jump is going to be the difference in this game against Wofford. And I think North Carolina is overrated.
Yeah, I think a lot with the Wofford offense too. I think I saw like they scored about 158 of those runs over in like an 8-game period where they were playing like RPI 100 and something teams. So I think a lot of it, they have those. Their offense is impressive, but I think it's kind of like they have inflated numbers from playing lesser teams. But then they went on a run there to win their tournament, their conference tournament, and they were really impressive there. So, and definitely a team that like LSU can't just throw out, anyone on the mound. They definitely, I think Gage Jump is going to be the starter, and I don't think, even though their offense is pretty good, I don't think Gage Jump will have any problem with them because, again, they've never faced SEC pitching this season.
Yeah, and they're going to naturally. This is only their second NCAA tournament, and they haven't faced SEC pitching like you talked about. They're going to be facing one of the best, we think, in Gage Jump. It's probably going to take them a little while to get adjusted, and hopefully LSU can jump on that. I think we need to go to a quick break, and then we'll come back and break it down some more.
Join in summer fun at your library. Every Friday in June at 7 p.m., families are invited to the main library on Goodwood for Movies on the Plaza. Teens can participate in our Cool Career Series and Teen Summer Film Camp. Plus, there'll be children's programs galore. Find out how to sign up for EBRPL Summer Reading Program at ebrpl.com/summer reading. ebrpl.com/summer reading.
Back on the Tiger Rag Audibles podcast, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, Tiger Rag editor Todd Horne, and assistant editor Will Nickel. Todd, you said that North Carolina was overrated. Why do you say North Carolina is overrated?
Well, I say North Carolina is overrated, not necessarily from watching them and making my own judgment on them, but from talking to various pro scouts that have said that, they're obviously a good baseball team, and I don't mean to talk trash about them, but from the indications I've gotten, the conversations I've had, they were related to Ole Miss, and on more than one occasion. They said they most resemble Ole Miss. I wasn't that impressed with Ole Miss this year for obvious reasons. Poor defensively. I'm talking about Ole Miss. Poor defensively, not that strong of a really offensive team, and they weren't a good pitching team. I think North Carolina's weak on pitching. They lost two of their starters to injury early in the season, and they've had to make adjustments to that. But their number one pitcher is an 18-year-old freshman, and they play in the ACC, which everybody talks about the ACC being right up there with the SEC, and it's not. It is not, in my opinion. So I think the way I see this very simply is Gage Jump shuts down Wofford. LSU's bats jump all over Wofford's pitching, which I mean Wofford's number one pitcher may not even be able to pitch because they wore out his arm in the SoCon tournament. I think he had 200 pitches in the SoCon tournament, according to J.J. Edwards the other day, the coach of Wofford. So I think he's under constant scrutiny right now and evaluation, and if he does throw, he may have dead arm. So I think LSU's bats are going to do well against Wofford. I think Gage Jump's going to do well because they've got SoCon eyes, not SEC eyes. And then I think Luke Holman is going to be able to shut down North Carolina. And I actually think that LSU will very likely take this in 3.
I don't think they're going to take it in 3. There's a couple things. I just have a hard time believing North Carolina could be compared to Ole Miss. That was a really bad Ole Miss team.
Multiple
I don't
scouts.
understand how that's possible because Ole Miss was a really bad team. And you're talking about North Carolina, the number 4 national seed, with 3 very good hitters in their lineup, including one of the top players in all of college baseball, in Vance Honeycutt, who's a great offensive player, a great defensive player. Ole Miss has no one like a guy like Vance Honeycutt on their team. I will say that North Carolina is at a bit of a disadvantage because when you look at them, they don't necessarily have a true ace. I don't think they have someone that is good as Luke Holman or Gage Jump. But one thing they have done very well this season, they have been very hard to beat at home. They've only lost twice at home this season. So they obviously feel very comfortable in their ballpark. Again, they got some good hitters. They got strong starting pitching. I don't know if it's necessarily great, but they got strong starting pitching. Their team ERA is 4.19. That is the 14th best in the country. Again, that's pretty good. I agree with you. The ACC is not at the same level as the SEC. But the ACC still got 2 top 8 national seeds in the tournament. Them and Florida State. So there is strength there. And so I see this thing going at least until Monday. I just think LSU has this, as Coach Jay Johnson alluded to, there's 20 guys that are back from last year's team. They know how to win at this point. Granted, they didn't have to do it on the road last year. They were in the friendly confines of Alec Box Stadium, but there's enough guys on that team that know how to get through this a difficult regional, and I think North Carolina is a difficult opponent for LSU. I think there is a clear distinction between them and Wofford. Wofford should not be much trouble for LSU. I think North Carolina is going to be a tough test.
See, I don't respect what you say, but I don't think that they're going to be able to. North Carolina is going to be able to hit Holman. I think I think they face each other in game 2 on Saturday. I think Holman shuts them down. LSU wins a low-scoring game on Saturday. And then I think Thatcher Hurd, Nate Ackenhausen, and Griffin Herring play a role in a Sunday win.
I think Nate Ackenhausen in a Sunday, because he was really, against Tennessee, he was dealing. He had 5 strikeouts in 2 2/3 innings. I think if he can keep playing like that, a game, on a Sunday game against North Carolina, I think he could do it. North Carolina's a good team. They are. I just don't know, are they better than Georgia or Kentucky or Tennessee or, some of the teams that LSU's faced already and gone toe-to-toe with or beat them?
Well, it's baseball. Anybody can beat anybody
right
on any given day. And it comes down to the matchups. And I think, LSU has settled their roster. Jay Johnson, Nate Yeske, and crew have figured out who their top 9, 10 position players are. They figured out the batting order. They're hitting the ball. And I think that pitching staff, it was a setback to lose Christian Little. But I think that they've got enough bodies and enough arms, and they've figured out the matchups. I just think LSU's in a good situation. And Jeff, I don't want to bring up a sore subject again, but I just don't think – I think you're going to see that North Carolina is not what they're cracked up to be.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But I just have a hard time thinking a number 4 national seed, based on all their numbers in a major conference, is not a very good team. I think they're going to be a very good team. It's going to be a very good test. I think what we're banking on, though, is that Gage Jump and Luke Holman are just going to go out there and pitch gems on Friday and Saturday. And it is baseball. And my biggest fear here is, for LSU's sake, if one of those two guys does not have a good outing, then LSU gets behind the 8 ball pretty quick.
I agree with you. That would be devastating in my mind for LSU.
I also feel like, okay, LSU is finally getting the breaks. South Carolina was horrendous on defense in both of those games that LSU won. If South Carolina doesn't make those mistakes, a ground ball through the first baseman's legs, a third baseman who doesn't know how to play bunt defense, LSU does not win those 2 games. If North Carolina is on top of its game, so LSU got those breaks. And in baseball, you go through a stretch, and LSU went through a very long stretch this season where they didn't get many breaks, and they started 3-12 in the SEC. Started getting some breaks. Breaks helped them win the Texas A&M series because of bad defense. Helped them beat South Carolina twice. It's great you can come back 8-0. That's awesome. That was great. But if North Carolina plays clean baseball, I think LSU is going to. It's going to be tough for the Tigers to beat them. But if North Carolina does what South Carolina did, then LSU is going to probably score 8-10 runs again.
I think it's going to be equally tough for North Carolina, even though they're playing on their home turf, against LSU.
This is really tough for North Carolina. I see it from both ways, because you're the number 4 national seed. I don't think they were expecting the defending national champion and one of the hottest teams of all of college baseball to come to their park. So it's a tough draw for North Carolina. And I also see it from the other side, from LSU's perspective, because they have been playing as well as they have been. I didn't think they would be going to a spot where they would be facing a top 8 national.
Let's talk. Let's take another quick break, and then let's talk about that when we get back. Sound good?
Yep.
I think that most people that contact the 90-Day Lifeline are looking to be heard and to feel seen.
Anybody that calls here to talk about anything that has them upset, we will talk to them.
Even on our chat and text services, you will be actually chatting and texting with a real person.
We have enough resources to be able to help people in any type of situation.
We have helpline specialists that are trained to handle the variety of calls that we get.
It's a very laid-back thing. We're not judging anybody. We're just a listening ear that some people don't have.
Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with Tiger Rag Editor Todd Horne and Tiger Rag Assistant Editor Will Nickel, breaking down the Chapel Hill Regional. The Tar Heels, the number 4 national seed. LSU rebounding from that 3-12 start to SEC play. They've won 18 of their last 24, and they end up in a regional with North Carolina, who's the number 4 national seed. There was a lot of various places that LSU could have gone. Of course, they could not have gone to another SEC school's regional. And I'm really interested to see how, in years moving forward, with conferences expanding, how the tournament selection committee is going to handle this in the future. Will they have to start sending teams from the same conference to the same regional? But that's a discussion for maybe another day.
Yeah, and let me interrupt you just for a second. I apologize, because you bring up a good point. This is the first time in history that the Southeastern Conference, the SEC, has had 11 teams make it to the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. And actually, Will pointed this out in an article on TigerRack.com earlier this week. It's possible that the College World Series is 8 SEC teams this year.
Yeah, it could be. It certainly could be. I mean, I think we've all seen how tough this league is, especially when LSU went through a very difficult stretch of having to play Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Tennessee and Arkansas. I mean, that was – and Florida in there as well. And Florida just gets in, I guess you can say. So what's interesting is this is the first time LSU is playing a regional in the Eastern time zone. Before, usually LSU is obviously hosting, but the years that they haven't, they've gone out to the West Coast. Most recently, they went to Southern Miss. Usually what the committee likes to do is they do a 350-mile radius, and they try to send teams to a regional within that 350-mile radius. That really didn't work this year for LSU. I guess you could say maybe Tallahassee was possibly that spot, but they found other schools to send to Tallahassee. So that's part of the reason why LSU has gone out west. That's why they played Southern Miss in a regional in 2021, was it, or 2022. So that was part of it. I mean, hard to say exactly why North Carolina, what ended up resulting in that. I think that I looked at it as you going into it, you knew they were not going to go to a regional with another SEC school, so you knew that. My question was, would the regional that they are playing in, would it be paired with a regional featuring an SEC team? Would they have to potentially go to Arkansas for a super regional, Tennessee for a super regional, Kentucky for a super regional, or even A&M? And that's not the case, and I think LSU catches a break there.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to go to A&M. I mean, I don't know. I just think that with how many SEC teams are making they're sending 11 this year, they're only going to be sending more in the next few years, I just think eventually they will, or they're going to have to get matched up with an SEC team. It's just, I mean, you're going to have to. I mean, you're sending, 12, 13 teams to a regional. There's going to, just numbers-wise, you have to have SEC teams against each other.
So in softball this year, every competing team in the Southeastern Conference, every team that fields the softball team made the NCAA tournament. You think we see that in future years potentially?
You still have Missouri playing baseball.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about Missouri. Okay, but let's get back to the real point here. LSU was put in the Chapel Hill Regional.
Yeah.
Because the Chapel Hill Regional is paired with the Tucson Regional, which they're banking on Arizona hosting Jay Johnson, his former team.
Yeah.
And they're a bunch of drama queens. That's what they are.
I think there's part of that, and then I think there's the possibility that Wake Forest and Tennessee could play in a super regional, and that's
Chase Burns.
Yeah,
Chase
so
Burns.
you have that, and I mean we've seen this a lot in basketball, right, where you have former coaches playing against their former teams in regional games, or it seems like
Do we like that? Do we like that?
But see, I don't know how much drama there really is about Jay Johnson going back to Arizona.
Well, I think the interesting thing.
I mean, I think for Arizona fans, there's drama there. But I think for the college baseball, I mean, for LSU fans, they didn't even know who Jay Johnson was.
Yeah, well, and to your point about Arizona, they were PO'd when he left Arizona because he had taken them to two College World Series and on the cusp of a championship right before he left, and they were upset that he left.
But I think for LSU fans, I don't even think they're really.
Yeah, but
I don't think they're going to get hyped up. Now the players may say, "Hey, we want to," but I don't know. I don't think it's.
Well, I think it's all going to be mute anyway because I don't think that Arizona is going to make it out of their own regional. I think it's probably going to be Dallas Baptist. And then the question is, if LSU prevails in the Chapel Hill Regional and Dallas Baptist prevails in the Tucson Regional, what happens to the Super Regional? Is LSU hosting? And I don't know the answer to that question.
I do know that LSU obviously put in a bid to host, so they have...
Oh, money plays a factor.
Stadium plays a factor into this as well. So, yeah, there's – and I don't know how big Dallas Baptist's stadium is.
Well, it's probably like Pete Goolsby Field. I don't know. I think
it's probably a little better than that.
I sound so disrespectful, but
Yeah, so, and I wouldn't also sell out West Virginia. West Virginia probably should not be a number 3 seed. And West Virginia has an outstanding player. They got the Big 12 Player of the Year on their team. They also have a really good pitcher as well. So I wouldn't sell out West Virginia from winning that region. That's a very tough regional for two. There's a reason, Arizona was a surprise to get one to begin with. I think winning the Pac-12 championship tournament probably sealed it for them. But the two other teams, or the 2 and the 3 teams that are the 2 and the 3 seeds that are going there, that's pretty tough. So.
Yeah. So how did Arizona get the number 1 seed anyway when they have the lower RPI than the number 2 seed?
Well, they won the regular season championship, and they won the tournament championship as well. So, but they have it's the toughest regional for sure. There's no doubt. And Grand Canyon is, a lot of people have said that's the number 4 seed in that regional. They say that's the toughest, or that's the best 4 seed out of the other 15 4 seeds in the tournament.
Well, and just to lay it out, if number 2 LSU wins the Chapel Hill and number 2 or higher wins the Tucson, then LSU would host automatically.
It's your time to move things forward. U.S. Army Reserve.
All right, let's make some hardcore predictions here, and then let's get out of here and start watching some baseball.
Well, I'll go first. I like LSU to win the regional, but I think it's gonna take until Monday. And I know that sounds, because then you're obviously diving into some pitchers and whatnot that LSU doesn't really, or hasn't had a count on, or they may have to count on. But I just like how they are swinging the bats at the moment. I like the fact that they're one of the hottest teams going into this thing, and they were in situation. A lot of these guys were in backs against the wall situation last year, right? When they lost on the Monday of the College World Series, and then they won in walk-off fashions in the College World Series, nip and tuck games. They had to win a deciding game against Florida. These guys, the fact that they went through quite a bit, especially in Omaha last year, I think really helps them in what will be, I think, a fairly hostile environment at North Carolina.
Okay, I think they take it in 4. I think LSU can still win the regional. I think they make it to Sunday 2-0, and then probably North Carolina forces it to go to Monday, and then they take it in 4.
All right, I think it's going to be Jump in game 1 fairly easily. I think it's going to be Holman in game 2 in a low-scoring pitching duel. I think in game 3, you're going to see Ackenhausen and Hurd with Monster Milam hitting a walk-off. And LSU is going to advance to the Baton Rouge Super Regional, where they take on West Virginia. Okay.
All right. So you like? All right. I like that. Are the balls going to be juiced in Chapel Hill like they were in Hoover?
I don't know that the balls were juiced in Hoover.
They were juiced.
That's an interesting. Do you have any sources for that?
Most home runs in the tournament and most hit batsmen.
Those are stats and facts.
And they're not. And it's not coincidence that both of them happened. The ball was juiced, harder to handle for the pitcher to control. And come on, Michael Braswell's wall scraper that he hit, that was a lazy fly ball out to left center field.
All right. Well, all I know is Tommy Tanks isn't ready to take off that LSU jersey
No,
yet,
he's not.
and he wants to come home. So the Tigers are coming home, and they're gonna face West Virginia. So, any last words?
No, I think I'm good.
You're good?
I think I'm good.
All right. Okay, so there's a $150 bonus on the table for the winner of our predictions here. All right. Talk to you guys later.